So, welcome. Welcome, first time person. Welcome, long time people.
Can somebody get Rachel one of these? You have one?
From back there, do you have this also, Rachel? Okay. Wow. But it wasn't Aggie. I see it plain. So welcome, and we're starting our retreat on the 4 boundless states, which is really a continuation of our practicing and reflecting on the cultivation of equanimity this summer, and it's going to blend in with several programs that we're having visitors come and teach us here in the fall, later in the fall. It's a wonderful hologram of teachings, really, that we're entering, a mandala, we could say, of teachings that we're entering into or continuing on together. So we would like to sing our, the usual invocation that we've been doing on Tuesday nights as well. May all beings always have happiness and its causes. May all beings always be free of pain and its causes, which are actually, as you will see as we go through the weekend, these are actually the statements of immeasurable love and immeasurable compassion. And then we'll also sing the verse from Shantideva that we usually sing. And because we're in a retreat context, we'd like also to sing Great Bliss Blazing, a great blazing bliss, which is why you have this. This is really an invocation to all of the sacred essences and beings everywhere. You can think of them as outside, they're also inside. And just calling on the sparkling potency of reality to be part of our practice. That's one way of saying what this is by Mipam Rinpoche. So we'll sing that. And then Harvey and I will sing the invocation to Adzam Rinpoche, and then we will sing our refuge in Bodhicitta, which is on, actually, you will guide us through it? Okay. So Claire, our Umte, will guide us through all of this, so just relax, and we'll sing, and that's how we'll begin. And if you ever feel like you want to sit in a chair, that's fine. If you want to move back and forth, that's fine. Two tables. Oh, okay. You're very serious about your work. That's good. Okay. Yes, I know.
Start with the aspiration on the yellow sheet. Sing both verses. May all
beings always have happiness and its causes. May all beings always be free of pain and its causes. For as long as space abides, as long as the world remains, just so long may I be there, resolving all beings' pain.
And Great Blazing Bliss is on page 5 in the booklet. English?
Yes, English tonight.
Oma Hum
3. Great bliss, blazing power, palace where wisdom wants no bliss and emptiness. Blissful lotus ones with no wanting, Vajra sun great glory shines from there. True form Amitabha, Dorje Lokesh, Lord compassion, passionate. Lotus, Lord master of world and peace, power Heruka outshines all things. Sangwa Yeshe Vajra Varahi, Demchodis our king, great bliss treasure. Mind muse Rikshema rules all mudras, high low dancing in bliss emptiness. Power-wielding Dakin Daki host, you know seen and empty as the same. You dance your Vajra form, shakes three worlds, your laugh and ceaseless speech rouse three realms. Red light rays suffuse all worlds in peace, stir and gather world peace essences. Grant the 2 feet our supreme desire, Vajra passion of your own heart mind. With great Vajra hooks and lassos you bind to great bliss all you know and see. Dance play in the endless magic net like sesame pods burst open with 3 roots power, God host vast array. Bless and grant us with respect I pray, for unhindered city power in all feats high and low that I desire. Just allowing all that to wash over and into you. And we'll do the invocation. Kyabda Gyalwanam Tangyer Mebe Gandrin Sumden Chinchan Lama Che Ridzin Jorme Tupten Jatsola Sowadep Sonyam Len Tarshin Sho.
Refuge and bodhicitta are on the sheet. What English or English?
I think tonight English. Tomorrow we'll do the middle verse in Tibet.
In 3 real
Jewels,
jewels,
3 root bliss-filled ones, channels, winds, bright orbs, this Bodhi mind, essence, nature, moving love mandal, until full Bodhi I seek refuge. In 3 real jewels, 3 root bliss-filled ones, channels, winds, bright orbs, this Bodhi mind, essence, nature, moving love mandal, until full Bodhi I seek refuge. In 3 real jewels, 3 root bliss-filled ones, channels, winds, bright orbs, this Bodhi mind, essence, nature, moving love mandal, until full Bodhi I seek refuge. Moons in water, sides deceive us, we ever roam bound in cyclic chains, so all may rest in their clear mind sphere. I raise Bodhi through 4 boundless stays. Oh, like moons in water, sides deceive us, we ever roam bound in cyclic chains, so all may rest in their clear mind sphere. I raise Bodhi through 4 boundless stays. Oh, like moons in water, sights deceive us, we ever roam bound in cyclic chains, so all may rest in their clear mind sphere. I raise Bodhi through 4 boundless stays. And in this way we begin to enter our retreat space. And we enter the space of our own increasingly settled and clarifying mind. And so to begin, we simply sit and rest here in the present, feeling the contact, the actual contact that you actually feel between the bottom of your body and your seat, your cushion. That sensation, like all bodily sensations, is right here in the present, in this moment. It's a way to bring us to the present moment, to help us live in the present moment. So we settle into our seat, settling, allowing whatever relaxation is ready to be released for us. Letting yourself really be held by your seat, supported. Support is profoundly significant for us as practitioners. We want to feel supported. We want to develop a real trust. This is what allows us finally to actually relax in a deep and deepening way. And so we take a moment to reflect that right now you are seated directly above the center of this earth. You are, in fact, in contact with it through your contact with your own seat. And this means that in a very real way, support is coming to you directly from the center of the earth, which is like a plumb line directly beneath you. So you can see if there's some relaxation that can come to the bottom of your body. You can rock gently till you can feel that you're actually sitting on your sits bones. You can feel that because when we sit otherwise, some muscles have to do some kind of work to keep us upright. But if you can feel the contact of your sits bones there, then supports your entire skeleton, which supports you. That's what bones are for, give you support. Everything else can be at ease. So we're in the present moment, being aware of our own bodies. Whether you are aware of tension or ease, you're still in the present moment. That's important. Bring your attention gently to your shoulders. See if they are ready to relax a little bit more. If they're holding tension, just acknowledge that gently, and that itself may allow the tension to gradually release. You're not getting into a struggle with yourself. Whatever is there, but we notice it. And your neck is long, your chin tucked under just a bit. You can feel how that lengthening of your neck also lengthens and strengthens your spine. Strengthens and opens and aligns the corridor running through the middle of your body. That itself is in alignment with the center of the earth. This is another very important, subtle kind of support. The central corridor of your own body in alignment from the bottom of your spine to your belly center, what we call the do, the dantian in some traditions. You're just letting this alignment come into awareness. Center of the earth to the bottom of your spine. Your belly center, 3 fingers below your navel and 3 fingers inside. Quite a deep place in the body. Because we're entering some deep work, and somehow there's a resonance with our capacity to be deep, deep within the body, and our capacity to open deeply, to learn deeply, to grow deeply. And so we invite our attention there. And that alignment continues from the center of your belly to your heart. Heart, so important. Cultivating love, compassion, as well as equanimity and joy. Really is the heart of the matter. So it's helpful to feel that our heart, that your heart right now also rests and is supported with tremendous depth of support. That whole alignment from the center of the earth through your own body is in support of your heart. And through our practice, we're looking for our heart also to relax, to open like a flower, as we do in some of our practices. That delicate flower-like quality of opening also benefits from a sense of great support. And the alignment continues through your throat. Place of great richness, delight. And your crown, which is a natural gateway to reality itself. And so we just let our awareness touch into these places, aspects of our own body. We're not trying to do anything or pretend anything or create anything at all. We're just aware of our embodied expression. So let yourself digest that in your own way. Whatever element of what we've just described resonates for you, give that a little more attention. So we're sitting here profoundly supported from the center of the earth, aligned with it, and open as well to the blessings, positivities, inspiration that can descend from the vastness of space, to which our crown is an easy portal. And of course you're breathing, just naturally, however you breathe, you're breathing. Everything here is natural, part of our relaxation, the kind of relaxation that allows for increasing clarity. So within this embodied state of being supported, aligned, as well as nourished, direct your attention gently to your breath. That means to the sensation of your breath. Letting your attention rest gently on your breath. And just move with your breath in and out. Simply sensing into the sensation of your own breathing. Wherever you feel you can sense that most clearly. When you breathe in, you're breathing in from the realm of space itself, gifting you with energy, freshness, whatever particular qualities you might need at this moment. They're all present in the space. So you inhale them. You don't have to think about it. It's just what is occurring. And just as naturally, when you are ready to exhale, there's relaxation. So we can sit and breathe together for a few minutes, simply recognizing that we are continually furthering our clarity, both through our inhalation and our own cultivation of attention. And we're also furthering ease and relaxation, which we recognize as an experience of exhaling, and is furthered by our awareness of being supported. Again, you don't have to think about these. We're just naming something that is naturally present. Just rest with this awareness of your breath. And whenever you notice your mind has gone to something else, as we know, the mind will do that, just bring it back. Just bring it back without any fuss and bother, without any story about how you used to be less distracted or wish you were less distracted. Nothing like that. No judgment, actually. Just bring it back. Start again. So we'll do that for a few minutes. And once in a while, check your body as well. If something is tensed up, maybe it's willing to relax. You feel yourself relaxing when you feel ready. You can let your attention ride your next inhalation all the way down to the center of your belly, your dough, deep in the belly. And just let your attention drop down and be there. Something about doing that allows greater clarity, allows eventually your torso, where we hold most of the tension associated with our emotional reactivity, is mostly in our upper body. So as we bring our attention to belly center, you can imagine that the tensions associated with whatever emotions we might be experiencing begin to dissolve, drop down into the belly center, melt away. Something like tea leaves when they're saturated. They just drop down and the water becomes clear. clear and at the same time colored by the power of attention. Just like tea colors water, the power of attention colors your experience. So this is how we begin any meditation session, by developing some core of attention, presence to our body, settling, relaxation, clarity, letting all of the worries and plans that we may attend to at other times just go. Just let them fly off in the wind, drift downstream, melt away, and we're just here, present to our breathing, bringing our mind back whenever it wanders. And actually, in doing so, we are already beginning to touch into cultivation of equanimity, which, as you know, is a freedom from judgment. So when we consider what equanimity actually is, freedom from judgment and acceptance, we consider our own relationship to that sense of equanimity. Whether your mind wanders or stays on your breath, can you be free of judgment? Can you be free of judging yourself to start with as better or worse than anybody else? Can you remember a time when you were so easy and expansive in your mind that really, if one thing happened or another, it was okay? Can you remember a time when something or other happened, or you did something or other, and it was totally not okay? You were judging yourself, and judging yourself quite harshly. And how is that in your experience? Is it a pleasant experience? Is it a helpful experience? Again, we're not judging your experience. We have a space now to explore your own relationship to either an actual feeling of equanimity or your relationship to it. Perhaps there's some reaction that comes up. What do you sense that equanimity actually feels like? And what comes up for you as you consider cultivating equanimity? First, towards yourself. Maybe there are situations where you encounter others, and you really feel that you're quite superior to everyone present, or at least to some people present. That feeling of superiority, being better than, how is that in your experience? Is it pleasant? Is it unpleasant? How does it compare with what you feel or imagine equanimity would be like? Look into this. And among these options, identify one particular experience when you were definitely in judgment about yourself. And how was that? Where did you feel it in your body? How did it resolve? Did it resolve? Because that's what not having equanimity feels like. And when you were judging yourself, what exactly were you judging? What was it that was either good or not good, better than another, less than another? It made you feel puffed up with pride or downhearted about your status. Just pick one for now. We all have plenty of both, no doubt. Just pick one example. Not the most dramatic example in your life, but something that you can work with. And then that exact quality that makes you inferior or superior, in that moment when you feel that way. If it's something that made you feel inferior, sensing into how that felt in your body, what the actual issue was, let it change. If you forgot something important, change that image into an image of you remembering and how that feels and how that affects your sense of judgment of yourself. How it feels in your body. Similarly, if you were working with something you saw in yourself that made you judge yourself superior in some particular context, then look at that. How did you feel in your body? How do you feel in your body as you recollect it? And let that change. Maybe you gave the most brilliant conversational repartee in some context. Felt quite good about that. Let that shift a little. Maybe you didn't make such a splash. Just tone it down just a little bit. And how do you feel in that regard? How does your body feel? Your sense of being better than, your connection to the possibility of equanimity. And the truth is, life experience shows us that sometimes we do well and sometimes we don't. And so neither status is our real self, our real identity. They're passing phases. And the same is true of other people, whom we also judge. The more harshly we judge ourselves, the more harshly we're likely to judge others. And how does that feel, judging another? Let someone come before you whom you really don't like very much, not the most difficult person in your entire life history, but just somebody who doesn't quite sync with you. What exactly don't you like about them? In a particular context, it might be that sometimes you like them, but in a particular context where you don't like them, they're annoying, you judge them. What is it exactly? Is it the expression on their face? Is it what they're wearing? Is it their posture? Is it the way they talk? Is it the fact that they don't talk? Is it the power they have over you? What don't you like? Whatever it is, change it. It's just in your mind. Change it. If you don't like their hair, fix it. If you don't like their complexion, change it. Their clothing, dress them up. And how does that impact you? Your sense of judging. We judge people as better and worse and more and less worthy. We do it all the time. It's one of the main things we do, actually. But from a very genuine perspective, everyone is actually very much the same. The differences on the basis of which we give judgment overlooks this profound sameness. Same. Anyone who's hungry wants to eat. Anyone who's cold wants warmth. Anyone who's sad wants to be happy. Everyone. Your search for happiness is not one whit different than theirs. So we have a lot in common. So equanimity is rather appropriate. So just based on what you've considered so far, and maybe you've been reflecting on equanimity over the summer, or even if this is a new mode for you of reflecting on equanimity, just based on what you've considered so far, your own reactivity, how it feels to imagine that decreasing, reflecting on the sameness of all beings. Does equanimity make sense to you as a quality you would like to have in your life? How would it be to walk through life, to walk into a party and not feel you have to zero in on the most important person, not feel stuck when you're in a conversation with less than the most important person? Just enjoy talking to everyone. Is equanimity a quality that you can begin to sense into as something you care to cultivate? Because it will take cultivation. And in the end, we can't really do it by ourselves. Perhaps you already know this. How can you make your mind stop judging? How can you even out the differences that you see in everyone and everything in your own personal preferences, which are the axis of your life? How could you do that? And yet it's that reactivity that keeps us tense, and ungrounded. To be in equanimity is also to be deep in your belly no matter whatever happens. Steadfast, steady, not losing your core, your center, like those dolls that have the weight at the bottom and you can kind of push them back and forth. Child's toy, no matter how you whack it this way or that way, they always come up straight again. They don't lose their center. Maybe you have enough experience of being in your own center to recognize that this has some value for you. Not being at the beck and call of whatever circumstance happens to unfold, whatever drama is taking place in the room that you're in. But retaining some sense of presence, equanimity. So if you feel you would like to call in something, someone that could help you with this process of being deeply settled, free of reactive judgment, that doesn't mean you don't recognize that certain things have qualities that others don't, as we've talked about this summer. You totally recognize that. But it doesn't set you into a reactive pattern of liking and disliking and feeling far from some and close to others, but seeing the real sameness that is there. So if you like, you can imagine that above your crown is a golden orb of light. If you like, this golden orb can be a dakini, a wisdom being. Either way, there's a golden glowing with the wisdom of sameness, which is the wisdom to which equanimity is a portal. The wisdom of sameness, and this orb, this dakini, draws into itself from all quarters of the entire universe streams of golden light, beautiful, delicate golden light, flowing in to this being or orb above your crown. Who, if you wish, will shed that golden light to descend delicately in just the right measure through your entire body, first descending gently through your crown. The radiance of the wisdom of sameness. The radiance of the relaxation of always being settled, feeling supported, no matter what occurs. The radiance of real balance in every situation. The wisdom of sameness, an enlightened quality. And this golden light, as much as you invite it, descends through your crown, expanding across your shoulders, your chest, your legs. Your whole body is beginning to glow with the steadfast luminosity of the wisdom of sameness. Until this dakini of the earth element, or this orb of light, at your heartfelt invitation, herself, itself, descends through your crown, down the aligned central corridor of your body, past your throat, comes to rest at your heart. At the same time as you feel deeply anchored in your belly supporting your heart. Just feel into whatever you feel. And we'll close with a single Om, feeling that golden light expanding from your heart to every cell, dissolving all materiality, and in this way encountering the spaciousness of the wisdom of sameness. So some of you will recognize we did a 4-step meditation that we've been learning over the summer. That will also be the pattern that we do for the other boundless states. We start by cultivating attention. We tap into our own experience, in this case of equanimity. What does it feel like? What does it feel like if we can sense into it? What does it feel like? Maybe we have some reaction come up. Maybe we feel afraid. What if I were equanimous all the time? How could I defend myself from, people that I don't want to be around? Whoops. In other words, it's a kind of self-Rorschach, or maybe we feel that there's a lot of value in our hypercritical intelligence that recognizes these differences, that allows us to navigate life in a certain way. So it's very likely, and we'll talk about this quite a bit actually during this retreat, that as we consider a particular boundless state, we have some reaction to it. And that's actually part of the practice, to recognize that and be with that and work with that. And then we also reflected, that's kind of in a way the main work of the meditation on the boundless state, especially until we make a lot of progress with it, which takes time. But there is worth also in the second phase. We spent a few moments reflecting on whether, in this case, equanimity makes sense to us. Is this a quality that we want? Now, there's actually a lot to reflect on here, and we'll touch into, as we talk about the different qualities, we touch into Longchenpa and what he says, and there's a lot to reflect on about why equanimity is appropriate. One reason it's appropriate, I think a very powerful reason, is that we're more the same than we are different. In this very fundamental way. We want to be happy. We don't want to be sad. That's true of everybody. And that's kind of like at the heart and gut and core of everyone. And then whether they're temperamental or blunt or, black or green or, everything else is kind of secondary. If you think about it, well, think about it. That's one proposal to you to consider. And if that's really true, then getting totally fixated on a particular quality and judging that and totally identifying a person as this, which is what we do all the time, do we not? We do that to ourselves too. Is not so right on. It's not really the way things are. So part of what we see is that exploring these boundless states is a way to access wisdom of how things really are. And this is a particularly significant and, as far as I know, unique feature of the way that Longchen Rabjam, very significant figure in the lineage here, presents these four boundless states. So we're going to be talking about that in terms of equanimity. As you know from the summer, it's the wisdom of sameness and also the wisdom of reality itself. Equanimity gets two wisdoms associated with it. And so there's that's the sort of reflection that one might have in the second phase. And it would be up to you, really, and maybe in conversation with us, and conversation also with yourself, to determine how much time you're not going to give equal time to all of these steps in every meditation. We'll talk more about how to kind of organize your training in these qualities, but it's important to understand these steps. And then the third step is really, okay, this is what I understand about equanimity. This is what I understand about my reaction to equanimity. Do I want it? Is this something I want to cultivate? Don't assume that you do. I won't assume that you do, right? This has to be a living thing. Okay, I come to Dawn Mountain, they're talking about equanimity. A lot of books say it's a really good thing, so, okay, I'm in. Well, that's good. I mean, actually, that's a start. I assume that much is probably true. You wouldn't have come this far. But really, are you, in your life, is this something you want to get to know and reflect on and engage with and interrogate, basically? Do you want to? Commitment is an important part, anything. And if you are committed to it and you do begin to practice it, you begin to see that its tremendous transformative power also means that it might be not something you can quite arrange all on your own, you know? It's a seismic shift. All of these boundless states are offering a total reinvention of our internal landscape. Have you so far in your life succeeded in totally reinventing your internal landscape? How am I going to do this? You know, we say all the time to our friends, sometimes to our teachers, to ourselves, I can't make my mind stay still. Have you ever said that? Quietly or loudly? You cannot, actually. It's true. And you can't make yourself equanimous either, I'll wager. So in the way that we're doing this, particularly inspired by Longchenpa, and the way that he makes a very clear alignment between the cultivation of these boundless states, which are widely cultivated inside and outside the Buddhist tradition. I wrote a short article for Tricycle, which you can Google, and kind of an overview of the different ways that Harvey wrote a book about the four boundless states, the ways that these are very important in the Buddhist traditions, and also Ashtanga Yoga teaches them, turned out.
Yoga Sutras.
What? In the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. And also, I think other groups in India at that time were also practicing these. What's special or what's significant, I would say to me, really inspiring and amazing is the way that Longchenpa and Jigme Lingpa after him, and our own teachers after them, makes this connection between, let's say, equanimity and the wisdom of sameness. This is a wisdom of enlightened state, of Buddhahood itself. So we want to explore that. And for that reason, we bring in the quality of enlightened state. And that's what we did in that fourth state when we invite the Dakini. Those of you who did the element practice with us, you know that each element is a Dakini. And so we are maintaining, we're syncing up with that logos, so to speak. and inviting, in this case, the Earth Dakini, this golden red Earth Dakini, to come and shed the golden light of being, in the best sense, earthy, grounded, supported. Also associated here is the blue Dakini of the wisdom of reality itself, and we invoked her, at least in words, by speaking of the spaciousness that being free of judgmental reactivity will bring to us. So those are the 4 steps. We'll be elaborating more about them as we move through. We're going to spend most of our time actually on love and compassion tomorrow and Sunday. We will touch into joy for the sake of completeness, since we have been with equanimity through the summer. This is, tonight we focused on equanimity to bridge into what we're doing during this retreat. And in our coming Teaching Tuesdays, we will also be filling in about the 4 measurables. But this is a chance for us to really work with them. And so I'm curious, we did that in this meditation. When I say work with them, we mean by that, sensing into really what is your own experience. What is your own experience? We're not puppets, we're not robots, we have our individual responses to these things. And the way we get to really make these qualities our own is to do the sometimes challenging inquiring into, well, how do I really feel about this? Maybe I feel I'd be a very boring person if I were equanimous. It turns out people find me quite entertaining when I grouse about life, or, when I grow ecstatic about the live oaks in Houston. We all have our little dramas that we perform to entertain our friends, and they usually, maybe they don't have much to do with equanimity. You get all riled up about something. Politics really works this way, right? Get all riled up about something, and the other people get riled up with you, and then what if you were equanimous? You might feel, I'll lose all my friends. So these are real concerns. These are real responses that we want to consider. So in just what we did this evening, what reaction did you have? What was that like for you? Did it awaken some reaction? Or too tired at the end of the day, you just kind of slog through and try not to fall asleep? What was your experience? That's actually very significant, if you're willing to share a bit of it. I know we're always so rude, huh? Yes, Terry, thank you. Take the microphone. Would you wait for the mic?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Well, we haven't
Yes.
spoken yet.
Is
Yeah,
it on?
I think you're holding
Is
it
it
right.
on?
Is it on? Is it green?
Is it? Now it is. Okay. So I envisioned somebody that I get pretty riled up when I'm around this person at certain times, and I feel like it was hard to change it because I think if I didn't get riled up, it would be like I wasn't doing the right thing, or I wasn't standing up for the right thing, sort of like that, So being equanimous felt like being complicit with
Great.
something that I thought was wrong,
Great.
or yeah.
It was hard to change it, meaning it was hard to change them, or
To
it was hard to
envision.
change your being change?
Well, it was hard to envision when you said change it.
Change the person.
Change the person.
Oh, I see. You couldn't.
Yeah, it wasn't. I'm not sure why I couldn't imagine the change.
I see.
I tried to imagine just like a change of facial expression, kind of a
Good.
softening.
Yeah.
It didn't really work.
It didn't work. So that just shows that you have a pretty strong
Yeah.
projection or image of this person that's somewhat fixed at this moment. And that probably, that made it harder to consider being equanimous, because here they are representing this wrong thing and not changing. And, okay, it makes a lot of sense, right? A lot of internal logic there. Good, thank you.
Just
We'll
to
come
follow
back
up
to it,
from my
yeah.
side. So having said all of that, is there any effect for you right now? Anything?
I guess I feel a little discouraged.
Discouraged?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
uh,
That's honest. Thank you.
yeah, I think that's.
Has the image shifted at all? Seem either harder or easier to change, having spoken about it, or same?
Well, I can imagine. I do know that there are other parts to this person too, so I kind of remind myself of that.
Uh-huh.
That's what I just did. You
Uh-huh.
know, they don't do those particular things all the time.
Uh-huh.
You know.
Uh-huh. So how does it feel to remember that?
Less riled up.
You're
you know,
less riled
calmer,
up.
you know,
You're
or
calmer. Uh-huh.
yeah, just like a little bit more. Yeah, I guess calm would be the word. You know, more open.
Okay.
So one of
Uh,
the
I'm sorry.
very important things to recognize in just this little thing that just occurred amongst us is that we usually would think that our reaction is really dependent on this real person and my reaction is real. But we start noticing, well, if I imagine the person, I feel sort of stuck, I feel they're sort of hopelessly worthy of judgment and they deserve it, and I don't really want to give that up because that would be kind of maybe injudicious. And at the same time, maybe when we relax, we start recognizing maybe they pet their puppies in a very nice way. And there's another aspect to this person, but this is all in our minds. And so our minds are really embodying these judgments, and we think they're the person, and they're sort of linked to the person. And of course there is some relationship with the person, but our reaction patterns are so embedded in what we're creating with our minds, how fixated our minds are, how we can make our minds flexible or open or spacious. Then it's not necessarily easy. But even the little bit of change that you noticed, well, you know, there are some other pieces to this person. This is also an aspect of mind. And your mind actually is capable of creating a certain flexibility, even a little bit of flexibility with respect to that person. And it's important to recognize the power of our minds in shaping these reactions and these holdings, because we're working with our minds. We're not going to chip away at the person in reality. We're not going to go give them corrective lessons. But we can do quite a lot with ourselves, quite a lot, over time. But it includes also acknowledging our initial reaction patterns evenly. Because the meditation itself and even our reactions, if we're holding them evenly, we're cultivating equanimity. Even when we go seemingly astray and it's like, I'm sort of stuck on this person as being miserable. But if we can just hold that, we're actually holding that with equanimity. It's very important. Yeah.
It's a good example of how rich, you know, just that very brief observation that you were willing to share is, you know, it's really got a lot of layers to it, and it's very rich. And I was going to ask you, once you remembered that, that this person is sometimes not that particular way, and you said there was a little bit of less riled up, a little bit of relaxation. So then it would be interesting to inquire, so how did your body feel after that? And also, did you then feel less obliged, to judge them? Did you feel less like you would be on the wrong side, if you didn't judge them? Because that was the thing that was kind of there before. That would be interesting to inquire. I mean, it's extremely rich, and it's a good example of the kind of thing that the threads that come out of that, Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, back, two people back there.
The experience that I had when I imagined changing the person, it was very easy to do, because one of the things this person does that I really don't like is that they're very narcissistic, and they talk quite a bit. And so in my mind's eye, I just imagined them shutting up. And as soon as that happened, I felt pain, because I was trying to make them different than what they were. And it was very interesting, because then I felt this sort of pain about not being equanimous, if that makes any sense.
So the pain was about not being equanimous, or it was about making them shut up?
Well,
The
that
pain
I
because-
couldn't accept them the way they were.
You felt bad that you couldn't accept them the way they were.
Mm-hmm.
And all the same, how did you feel after they became quiet?
That was the feeling that immediately came up.
So there's something about your judgment about yourself on this. Yeah, self-judgment is very painful. It really is.
And it's a good example of the gift that keeps on giving. So you've got this judgment about this person that they're narcissistic and talk too much. And the minute you imagine them not talking, you have judgment about your judgment. And it's actually a kind of a practice to see how little of that gift that keeps on giving, can we just sort of observe it at a certain point, and at one point just sort of say, give up and say, okay, I am judging. I think it's crap that I have this judgment about this person. Okay, can we leave it at that? I really feel it's crap that I have a judgment. And just, what is that like? To be with that judgment of yourself, instead of keeping the ruminating going and the energy going, and just being with that. Again, there's an equanimity in being with that and seeing what that's like. Very, very critical. And it's a great example,
It's a great
of what
example.
happens in practice.
It might also, depending on how pungent that particular experience was, or if you found it was very repetitive or something, if that might be a moment where you say, I need help. I want somebody to come in here and help me here. I'm just beating myself up about my own judgment, and even though Harvey gave me this really good advice, it's kind of a motor that keeps on going. So then, it's just an example. You could say, okay, let the Dakini come in. Let the wisdom of sameness in the form of light, this wisdom that I don't really have access to yet, but somehow let it just come into my system and be part of my field, and maybe that will help some. Because part of it is we get locked into this struggle of, I've got to not judge and I can't not judge, and there's just this kind of, actually what happens is a kind of a tightening up of a fight, and we don't want to be in a fight. We can't actually beat ourselves. We can't win that fight. What we can do is dissolve it, and that's kind of where the wisdom piece comes in. I don't know. Does that make any sense? Great. Thank you. Rob, you had your hand.
Good evening. Thanks for taking my question. Um,
Can't hear
I
you.
actually had some physical pain manifest
Oh.
in my shoulder,
Oh,
which actually, when we did the whole thing with, the zucchini coming
Yeah.
and dissolving, it was relieved quite a bit by
Interesting.
the visualization of just the light coming in and expanding out, and that sort of dissolved everything after that. But I sort of like, okay, relax. You're not having a heart attack or anything like that. I'm starting to talk to myself in there, and but it was very strange. I mean, it was very, very, it was a real tightening
yeah.
feeling in my left
Mhm.
shoulder.
Do you,
And
go ahead.
No, please.
Do you happen, you might not, but do you happen to remember what immediately preceded the onset of that pain?
It was the thought of, actually I was trying, like I've been working really hard on, I've got this thing that I'm hung up with the traffic and, like the pickup trucks, trying to cut you off. So I've been trying to work on just trying to like figure out a way to not be so affected in traffic like that.
Because it rattles you when
Yeah,
the way they
it
drive.
really stirs up very, very extreme, because it's like they're dangerous and they're almost killing people, and
So it's fear as well as maybe anger or annoyance or something
more
like
anger and annoyance
that.
than
But
fear.
fear under it maybe.
Possibly, yes.
Yeah.
Are you the one who's in danger of killing people?
No.
Or they're in danger of killing you?
It's like, when someone cuts someone off or I see them bullying somebody else, like I see this a lot, and I don't like to watch, people coming up on people's, rear, the car really close
Yeah.
and then flashing their
Yeah.
lights on. That just kind of infuriates me too,
I see.
So that
So,
seems to have preceded the,
yeah. Mhm.
is this a place where you have pain in general or not?
Every now and again,
Uh-huh.
just from an injury from a long time ago.
You
but
did injure. So it's a place maybe that's a little bit vulnerable in your body and
Oh, yeah.
place where some kind of reaction, maybe a, somatic reaction would come there more easily.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's interesting. Very strong, though.
Very strong, yeah, interesting. So it sounds then that it was maybe more about what you were experiencing, what you were, exploring emotionally than about the simple physical fact, because
Yeah.
it hadn't been bothering you before.
Right.
Also the fact that it responded to the energy of the dakini, which I think you're kind of sensitive in that way. So that's interesting and kind of sweet, that you were
Yeah.
able to.
Very strange.
It was strange. Uh-huh. And what about right now?
It's gone. I mean,
It's gone.
solved.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, pretty much.
Uh-huh.
But I guess that's
Yeah.
that mind-body connection that you
Yeah,
mentioned.
certainly. Mind, body, psyche. So there's something to explore there about fear and anger,
Mhm.
righteousness, judging, all of which call forth
Judging.
judging. Yeah.
Mhm.
Great,
Thank you.
great, thank
Thank
you. Everybody else equanimous? Claire, oh, okay. Claire and Chelsea. Yeah.
I had kind of an epiphany while I was trying to change the person because it's been a coworker and recently I haven't gotten along with her at all. But when I first started with her, I got along with her really well. And so when I started to change her, I realized within the past few months of me and her not getting along, she's had a lot of family hardships. And so she's suffering. And by me ignoring her, I probably caused her more suffering. So by trying to be more equanimous with her from now on, I can hopefully help her with her suffering.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. It's a beautiful example of how the boundless states are, as will be, I mean, they really are developing compassion, and compassion is the most healing possible thing. And how do you feel having?
I feel kind of bad that I've been ignoring her and causing her more suffering.
Uh-huh.
Like on Monday, I want to go give her a hug as soon as I see her.
You're like happy anticipating the hug. So some judgment came in. It's right, judgment about ourselves. So we want to watch this judgment thing because it does come up, I think, pretty much for everybody, and it does tend to be a kind of stop sign to our developing, because really your heart was opening and you were recognizing that she has suffering, and you somehow that seemed like that made you more spacious about the way she was behaving. And what would be lovely and probably possible would be to rest in that. But that's less familiar than judgment. So it's almost impossible not to, but possible not to. But understandable why then you would go right to the judgment. Oh, I haven't been treating her right. Because that's familiar, probably. But let me suggest to anyone, if something starts to open for you, stay with that. That's the new experience to explore. And when you start going into judgment about how bad you've been until now, okay, be equanimous about that and see if you can explore this newer thing, because that's what we want to grow. Does that make sense? Okay, clear.
So I noticed in this session, ever since I guess a month ago, 4 weeks ago, when y'all did the final Tuesday night on equanimity, and I realized how much resistance I had to equanimity.
Oh, good. Uh-huh.
I feel like I've progressed into a state of ambivalence about equanimity. And it's a lot of what I've been working with in my practice, just on my own, feeling into both sides of that, aspiring to the equanimity and also being afraid, particularly of letting go of attachment to the people that I love.
Mm-hmm.
That one I have a lot of resistance to still. But in the process of seeing this unfold for me, it really made me think about Harvey's series on change. And how this is, this, what I think I want, I'm actually putting roadblocks to even doing the equanimity practice often. Because I think, that's good. I'm going to just work on something else for right now. Just so many subtle ways that I've found that I'm short-circuiting my equanimity practice. So it's been really helpful to kind of have that pop up.
Yeah, as the actual short circuiter.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also just to recognize the ambivalence and to be able to consciously support one side of it
Wonderful.
instead of just unconsciously ignoring the whole thing.
That's wonderful. And of course, we can relate. It seems like, but if I weren't attached, I'd be lonely and I wouldn't have friends. So it is perhaps no less than miraculous that the very next boundless state is love, which has the quality of overcoming hatred, but is specifically in honing in on it as something we want to distinguish from attachment. So equanimity is
clinging. Clinging.
clinging or attachment, clinging.
Not healthy attachment. but
Not healthy attachment, no way, we're going to retain that. Clinging.
So I've got a logistical observation and comment.
Okay,
We're supposed to go to 8:30.
we are.
I want to say some small
Many
things. Do we have some
Well,
comments
we're
from?
actually supposed to break at 7:45 and then restart at 8.
And he needs to
Really?
be going.
We were
So
Why are we supposed to break?
Well, it was 7:45 to 8 originally for a break, and then 8 to 9 for the finish for the second.
actually on the paperwork, it's
We-
to 8:30.
We're supposed to end at 8:30, so we thought we were just going to go since it was just 2 hours. Did we not advertise it?
There is my mistake somewhere down
No, it's not your mistake, but
No, we probably were inconsistent in
probably
what we
had both.
thought.
It's
Can-
just we need to tell them there'll be no part 2 tonight.
Can we
Oh, can we do that?
just, I want to check, are there any comments coming in from abroad in the land? There's a
Okay.
question. We thought it would be good to stop at 8:30 because tomorrow we start at 10 and people have worked maybe today. And so that's a goal that we're shooting for. And I'll have to be very, very quick. But if there's a question from abroad, and then I'll say a few words.
Yes, this question is from James Carwin. I was wondering
Hi,
about
James.
the connection between the physical heart organ and the space around it to the mental and emotional space that we are working on. I notice at times when I'm not equanimous, my heart rate is up and there is tension in my chest.
Makes sense? When we're not equanimous, we're usually in reactivity and we feel tense, so you're spot on with your observation. You know, the space, in one very important way of understanding what's associated with the different chakras, you know, they're different systems, but certainly, and maybe this is what you're talking about, space, the space dakini lives in the heart, according to some logi, not the one we're using right now, actually. So there is a sense where you can settle in your heart and feel spaciousness. I'm not saying one way or the other about the physical space around the heart. That's above my pay grade. I don't know about that. But certainly the sense of spaciousness, feeling a sense of spaciousness in your heart, yes, you could feel that. It makes sense that you would feel more if you were more relaxed, and that you would be more relaxed if you were more reactive. So there's nothing really to do about that, I don't think. Just notice it. Support yourself in feeling more relaxed.
Gary,
Yeah.
you can depart. Okay. Okay, so tonight, everybody, hello out there in YouTube land. We will not be doing a break. We'll be shooting to end at about 8:30. So I'm going to say a few things and we'll do some closing prayers, and
So no part two.
there will be
No
no part
part
two
two.
tonight.
And we will start at 10 tomorrow.
And we can't go over 2 hours, right? That's the drop dead point.
It certainly helps if we don't.
All right, so we'll just stop broadcasting it. When did we start?
Do you want to take a 5-minute break so that
It's never
it's
5
not a
minutes.
drop dead?
No,
All right.
it's all right.
An hour and 28 minutes ago.
An hour and 28.
So 32
Do
minutes.
the math for me. When can we stop? 30 minutes, so about 8:35.
So we can go 35, 38.
All right, so I have all sorts of prepared remarks, but in wake of how Ann talked, I thought I would weave some of my remarks into what she said, because we're sort of presenting a very, very large vision, and I don't know that anybody's ever exactly put this all together quite this way, but I'm going to put it together. We're putting it together this way. There's sort of our interpersonal life, our internal and meditative life, and there's sort of spiritual reality, including wisdom and the nature of reality. And when we're talking about equanimity, we're looking at both the way we sort of currently interpersonally, most of us don't live in an equanimous space. We have a lot of judgment and a lot of reactions towards people. We reject some, we try to get closer to others. So my mind is a bit buzzing, and I hope I don't throw people off, but just see if you can ride with me on this. Part of what we're trying to do is make it clear that Buddhist practices and theory is somewhat holographic, and there are certain values that we go into sort of from one part of the hologram, but we also can enter from another part of the hologram and from another part of the hologram. And they're all valid ways of entree. So we start with ourselves, with our reactions to ourselves and our reactions to others that are non-equanimous. So that includes a personal element and an interpersonal element. But then we start thinking about meditation. And, you know, there's a lot out in the world nowadays about mindfulness and mindfulness-based stress reduction and mindfulness-based cognitive behavioral therapy for depression and mindfulness for this and mindfulness for that. And everybody who's teaching mindfulness will be implicitly talking about equanimity. Now, I think there are actually, and I think in my first book, Love and Sympathy in Theravada Buddhism, based on something that Edward Kanza did in his book on Buddhism, which is now probably 60 years old. But I think it's actually in The Path of Purification by Buddhaghosa. There are about 10 different meanings to equanimity. The most important here is there's equanimity described as a neutrality of feeling. That's equanimity in Buddhist usage. Neither pleasure nor pain, even. It's equanimity. So that's equanimous feeling in Buddhist English. But what we're talking about here is equanimity as a evenness of kind of all of the mental factors, all the mental functions that are operating in the mind at a time. And the other equanimity that's being talked about is an evenness with respect to others. But there's a great homology between evenness towards others and the evenness of all of the mental factors that are occurring in a wholesome state of mind. So, in terms of the hologram comes in via practice side, and we're doing things like mindfulness practice where we're trying to be even with respect to our experience. When we're doing something like cultivating the boundless dimension of equanimity, we're cultivating a similitude of the same quality but with respect to others externally. But interestingly enough, as we just saw in the conversation that we had, that cultivation itself presents an enormous number of opportunities for us to be even with respect to ourselves, with respect to everything that's going on in our experience. And so it's a twofold evenness. We can be even with respect to ourselves as a person, which is really the same kind of evenness that we're cultivating with respect to others, but there's also the evenness of mind with respect to our experience. It's just the actual mindful evenness with respect to our experience. And it's important to recognize that when cultivating practice, we are going to have a lot of reactivity. And it is enormously important to understand that the arising of spiritual superego is just almost a necessity, a predictable part of spiritual practice. I don't know anybody who gets into this game who at some point doesn't feel bad about what they aren't doing. And it's something we need to learn how to work with, how to be balanced with respect to ourselves, and to really just be spacious about and recognize, as Ronald Reagan would say, there I go again. And in a way to have a little bit of humor with respect to it. It's not a small issue. Not a small issue at all. Because most of us have some interest in improving ourselves, and most of us suffer from the common cold of self-hatred. I mean, it's just part of who we are. And so it's something we will always want to keep in the conversation and be aware of and see how we are being with ourselves as either aggravating or ameliorating or giving space to that kind of arising. So really, when we have those kinds of reactions, it's very, very important to be able to have that kind of evenness that we would extend to others, and an evenness of mind, of observation, a mindfulness evenness, but also an evenness towards ourselves, that we're not an enemy, we're not a terrible person. I'm listening to stuff on the radio now about people who've done various things, and I was just struck by, I think it's the Catholic Church that talks about, despise the sin but not the sinner. And we can have ideas about behavior being not wholesome or not productive or not useful, but can we recognize that humans are really intrinsically valuable and are intrinsically trying? And in Mahayana Buddhism, we of course think they have Buddha nature. I mean, that they're actually, everyone is redeemable. I mean, not only redeemable, but is really potentially, a deity. And so even if there's some understanding that somebody's done wrong or does wrong, and this is why I think our lovebird is such a great teacher, because, when she bites us and draws blood, or, people have children who also bite people and draw blood, I'll be cursing and, there's blood dropping from my finger and, and she's sort of hanging off there, still biting. What are we going to do with this? She's killing me. But, in some core way, I love her and realize she's just doing her lovebird thing. And it's very, very educational as a therapist to have a being like that in my life. It's just the act. She's not a bad being. She's not a bad being. So we're working with ourselves meditatively, but the other thing that we are going to be doing in our lives is we're working also interpersonally. And just as we get all of our reaction patterns from our families of origin, and we get all biased and impatient and hateful and self-judgmental, given from where we come from, we have teachers. We both have teachers, you have teachers, there are lineages of blessings that hopefully we're transmitting, and those are also curative and hopefully allowing for openings and changes. There are psychotherapists in the world that also interpersonally work with people and help people if people are really, really stuck in certain ways. But we're also talking about doing an interpersonal practice with an imagined being, a Dakini, a wisdom goddess. Now, Anne sort of taught this in a shorthand, but typically when we start imagining beings, it's also very, very helpful and very, very useful that whatever Buddha or Dakini that we're imagining, we're not just imagining some kind of cartoon figure. We imbue these imagined figures with the inner nature of our teachers and the teacher's teacher's mind, the realization of our teachers and the teacher's teacher's minds, the Buddha realization that resides in all beings, but hopefully is to some extent illustrated in our teachers or in our teachers' teachers, something of whatever beings we have run across whom we think are a little bit more ahead of us, those qualities of mind that they seem to embody, all of those are embodied in this visualized female goddess who we are invoking to assist us. It's a way of accessing the enlightened energy of the universe. It's not to pump up any particular teacher or another teacher. It's really to give us access to what some in the more Jungian tradition would call the imaginal realm, where there is access to certain energies and maybe realities that don't necessarily seem that real to everyone, but that we're invoking energies, and by bringing to mind that this figure that we're imagining as a wisdom goddess on our top of our heads is not just an empty drawing, but really is the embodiment of all the positive human potential qualities that any being could embody. It's helpful. And so interpersonally, when we are seeking assistance, one way to seek assistance is when we're talking in a group like this, or we also have individual meetings with our students where you talk about your practice and really sense into what's difficult and what's easy, and really report honestly about that practice to seek interpersonal assistance. A lot of us, I think, are drawn to Buddhism as sort of like the ultimate self-help system, which requires no one else to be involved with our lives. I would raise my hand for that particular agenda. Let me go off, sit on a cushion, not have anything to do with anybody else, and get fixed. That's not even what Buddhists really did. I mean, if you look at all of the teachings of the Buddha, it's not like, hi, I'm reporting to you from a cave, and this is what I'd like to tell you to do. The teachings are dialogues. If you look at the Theravada scriptures, they're all called dialogues. The longer dialogues, the shorter dialogues, or whatever. And Buddha's talking and having relationships with individuals. And even in Buddhism, the relational is central. I mean, it's not sort of singled out, and it's not sort of bandied about, but there's the third jewel is community, which speaks to the whole importance of being in a relational community. And if you look at most of the records, there's always something about the relationship of the student to the teacher, and the teacher to the student. It's a relational interaction. Now, yes, there are teachings, go off and be like a rhinoceros and go off and sit in a cave for 20 years. Those teachings do exist. But guess what? Before you did that, before you were a rhinoceros, you had a mother or a father spiritual guide. You had a maternal or paternal spiritual guide to tell you what to do as a solo rhinoceros. Or before you go into a cave for the last 20 years of your life, you spent a lot of time with the teacher learning what you were going to do. And so the interpersonal realm, whether it's our supportive colleagues, our teachers, our imaginal lineage of teachers when we do Guru Yoga, or the imaginal realm of the Dakini, are all ways of accessing that quality of sameness, evenness. And so yet another piece that we're conjoining in all of this is, so we can say, on the one hand, we're doing honor to the Theravada tradition and then the mindfulness tradition and the mindfulness-based stress reduction tradition. That's all sort of like, that's one side. And then we're talking about working interpersonally, maybe with our colleagues, maybe with our teachers, maybe with imaginal beings. And the piece that Longchenpa and Jigme Lingpa and that we're bringing in from a kind of more Dzogchen tantric side is that these very, very same qualities of evenness and sameness, they're the very nature of reality. They're the very nature of the Buddha mind. And within the Dzogchen tradition, those qualities are actually always available already to everyone. It's just that they're covered over. And so, of course, the question is, how does one get to a quality that is inherently in us, that is covered over? What does the uncovering look like? Well, it turns out the uncovering looks very, very much like doing mindfulness-based stress reduction, cultivating mindfulness in whatever size, shape, or form we cultivate mindfulness, being aware of our actual immediate experience. The hardest thing for all of us is to be aware of our immediate experience. And we'll talk more about that. And so I will leave it at that. We're going to jump to prayers, and we'll probably have people written in the book. We send the book around with
I think it went around.
requests for prayers. And you can,
you wanna write it?
can discontinue the broadcast
For
at
dedication at the end,
at
the
about
names of people that will
8:30,
read
just so
aloud.
that we're safe, okay? We will
She'll explain.
close the broadcast at about 8:30. We'll be in the middle of prayers for those of you who are away. And if you would like to, you can conclude prayers on your own. Okay.
All the teacher prayers, and the prayer for Don Mountain, and the recitation after dedication. Anything else?
Yeah.
No?
Other blessing.
Which
Paolo,
blessing?
my pink bag is in my little room there, and I
Which
have
blessing?
a list of the people I wanted to. Would you bring it? Yeah, thank
The
you.
blessing on the sheet, yes. And so Simone, maybe you can do the candle?
Thank you. Yes? Just Ed? Yeah. Huh? Oh, it's the second room to your left. You'll know when you walk in.
Okay.
Second room.
So, start with the dedications on page 22 in your booklet.
Forgot to bring it.
The sharing the merit prayer. By this good may I swiftly
once become a great guru, lead all beings, every one, to reach to that very ground.
And page 25. In a pure land ringed by snow mountains, source of bliss and benefit for all, powerful Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezig, lotus feet please stay hundreds of years, fill vast space with your activities. Om Swasti. Flawless refuge sources give blessings, teacher, protector, kind Dharma Lord, Jurme Tupten Gyatso wondrous good, lotus feet ever, deeds everywhere. In the first line of 26 and the first verse on page 27. Namo Guru. Glorious, wise, bright tune and kind song, now that your work here has subsided, please think of our pain, sad suffering. We pray you quickly take form again. Page 29. Om Swasti. And Harvey like the waxing moon, may your life and merit flourish grow. Through the threefold skillful pundits' deeds, live long benefiting all you meet. By the true power of two Vajra truths, three jewels, three roots, Buddha's compassion, faithful Sangha and aspiration, may this prayer be realized at once. Page 32, the prayer for Don Mountain. May there be a great fine new temple, great seat for all high practice learning, which having spread in all directions, male and female yogis everywhere, practice and further the teachings there. We have different systems. Names
What do you
now.
think? Names first or names after?
Maybe names now. Where did it start?
Why don't we light the candle first and then we'll read the names?
Okay.
Is that all right?
This is- Yeah,
Which, we'll do the,
I'm going to assume it starts
we'll do the
here.
blessing while Simone is, and then
We'll just sing it and then we'll read the names.
yeah.
So this is the blessing on this one sheet. With all of you in mind, we light this lamp of clarity. May the glow of love, wisdom shine within us, everyone, till we all rise forth born in one enlightened mandala. So we are extending our good wishes to all beings throughout space, and specifically tonight to Eric and Phil, Samatha, Robert Elkin, can't read this, Orthy, Juan Montez, Tim Marvin, Leslie, Luli, Kathy Ho, Brooke, Pam for travels, victims of violence, Carlos V. and George C., Ann, NGO, NGG, Amy, Kathy Caps, Jared Overman, Nhi Luong, Kan Vu, Kimmy Luong, Susan Holmes, Freedom Dendu, Bobby and Abby, Alexis, Ronnie, Debbie Hanson, Joyce McCormick, Alice Prentice Ching, Kieran Ching, Diane, Cheryl, and Kathy, Josephine, Evan, Alan, Venerable Losang Chugi in the Bardo, Barbara Kistler, all the youth tubers joining us tonight, Joanne Schneider, Galena Wolf, Melissa Fuca, Daniel Fuca, John Pfeiffer, Kate, James Kerwin, Susan L., Ed, Lutzi Turek and family, Dave Stevens, Vivian Kurtz, Nam, Kathy Carr, Jules Levinson, Carolyn Rhodes' father, Buddy Henderson, the Henderson family, Sharon and Chip, Safe Trip, Gloria Lopez and 3-year retreat, Jennifer Delmeyer and 3-month retreat, Steve Tainer, Martine Dorte, Lulian Yingri, all the hungry people, all the war-frightened people, all trafficked people, and the oppressors of all of them. The recitation after dedication on page 30. Things, sounds, minds are God's mantras, true forms, Gaia's and wisdom in every play. Through this profound and secret practice, be one with the one taste heartily.
Close with our awe, sending awe and light and your blessings and good wishes to everybody in this room and everybody everywhere.